Imagine being forced to flee your country in order to escape to safety. Today I'll try to persuade you to be more open-minded about refugees coming into our country. I know quite a few refugees, personally. They're honestly some of the kindest, most generous people that I've ever met. First, I'll tell you about the lives of refugees and why they're refugees. Second, I will tell you why we should let them into our country. And lastly, I will tell you some things that we can do to welcome refugees and make them feel more at home. Let me start by telling you a little bit about refugees. What is a refugee? A refugee is an individual who's been forced to leave their country due to political or religious reasons or due to the threat of war. A record 65.3 million people are currently refugees or displaced in their own country. Currently, the largest cause of refugees is the Syrian civil war, which has displaced over 2.1 million people, according to the New York Times from the SIRS researcher. The war has killed around 200,000 people in the last 5 years. Close to 5 million Syrians have fled since 2011. Most of the refugees flee to Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, Germany, and the US. Jordan alone has taken in nearly 660,000 Syrian refugees. As a country of relative wealth, the United States should be able to provide refuge to many refugees, as well as provide monetary support to the refugees that they cannot let into the country. Now I will explain why we should allow them into our country. Refugees don't want to leave their homes, but they have to leave by choice. They have no choice. If they stay in their country, they die, and if they leave, they could face death as well. They either face daily bombings to their homes or they die en route to safety. For example, one family were driving to the Jordanian border, which is only a 2-hour drive, but it took them 3 days because of roadblocks, crossfire, and arrest. During a trip like this, 80 people died that they were with. More than 5,000 immigrants have died trying to cross the Mediterranean. Refugees are the most meticulously vetted people to cross our borders. They're subject to the highest level of security and travel to the United States. Months of interviews, security checks, fingerprinting, and iris scans go on for them. It's very torturous for them. Average wait times are 18 to 24 months, but most of them end up waiting 2 to 3 years, according to Natasha Hall for the Washington Post. If we put a stop to refugee settlement, the security checks expire and they have to begin their applications all over again. About 60% of the 11,000 Syrians resettled are children, and these delays could cost them their entire childhoods. Another reason we should let them in is they are not terrorists. The annual chance of being killed by a terrorist attack committed by a refugee is 1 in 36 billion. According to Lizzie Dearden from The Independent Online, in an interview with Bill Emerson, there's no evidence that migration leads to increased terrorist activity. Mr. Emerson's study that countries should recognize the vast majority of people fleeing Syria and other affected regions are victims of terrorism themselves, rather than viewing them as potential suspects in the first place. Most refugees want to find a job, enroll their kids in school, and find permanent housing. It's in all of our interest to protect them and give them the opportunity to create a better future for themselves and their families. Lastly, I'll explain some ways to make refugees more comfortable here in America. Making a new home in a new country is challenging, even for people who do it by choice. Becoming a refugee is hard. Add in trauma, physical issues, and language barriers makes it even harder. To have survived the dangers in your homeland and found a means to escape and survived the journey to your destination, just to be treated poorly once you get here. We have not done our part if we let them through the door, but don't allow them to make themselves at home. We can help them adjust and feel more at home by encouraging our children to welcome new refugees at school. You can invite refugee families to your home, make play dates for the kids, coffee with the adults, just get to know them. You could volunteer your time to help them find jobs, teach them English. You could even raise money, have fundraisers. Any donations would help. They only receive a small amount of help once they get here, and then they're on their own basically. Anything such as home goods, kitchenware, furniture, etc., things like that are a big help. Even something as simple as a smile will make them feel welcome and warm. So first I talked to you about the life of refugees, and then I explained why we should let them into our country. And then I gave you some tips on how to make them feel welcome. So a call to action, I would highly encourage all of you to seriously think about what refugees really go through to get here, and to be more open-minded about the issue. Next time you think that a refugee is bad or a terrorist, just because they come from a Middle Eastern country, stop and think about what they had to go through in their own country and why they had to flee their own country just to get here. Thank you. How long was that?
6:30.
Oh yeah, perfect.
That was really good. It's just